Welcome to VT Sports. I'm Danny Kanell alongside my guy Chris Manno here. As always, we had a fun show lined up for you. A bunch of stuff I want to get to. Major League Baseball, we've got a pretty good World Series going on. I've got a scorching take on it, though, that you might want to hear. We've got an NBA gambling scandal. Yes, it's a little bit old news, but there's still stories unfolding, and we might see more involved. Want to hit on that. NFL, we're right in the thick of it. A couple of teams we have been very, very hard on, including potentially wondering what the future would hold for their head coaches. They get wins. Want to hit on that. Plus, MJ, his broadcasting career continues to flourish. I say that tongue in cheek. I've been hard on him. I want to hear his latest. Plus, I have an unbelievable story. A couple NFL players really stepping out there with their faith. Can't wait to let you guys hear some of that as well. But before we do much more, let me check in with the guy Manno, see how he's doing today. We doing all right? A couple minutes late today. PBD's grinding, as he always is, working late. So we're about 15 minutes to the live show. If you're watching on YouTube, we apologize for that. But we're here as always. And there's no way I'm going to tell PBD, hey, let's wrap things up, buddy. Let's wrap it up.
Not happening, my man.
No. The other thing, if you are dragging a little bit this week, it is Wednesday. We normally do our show on Wednesdays. It's a hump day. It can be that time of the week when you start dragging a little bit, you're tired. And if you are, it can be completely understandable if you were watching Game 3 of the World Series. We had Game 4. It is tied to 2-2. It's becoming a really fun World Series. Shohei has delivered. But the game that took place in Game 3, 18 innings, we saw a game that you had 37 runners left on base. You had Shohei Ohtani walked not once, 5 times in the game, especially in those extra inning situations. And it finally came to a close with a Freddie Freeman home run at 3 a.m. East Coast time. This is the worst thing for baseball. The worst possible thing. I saw people describe it as a classic. The worst part about it for baseball is that most people were already sleeping, including myself. And I love baseball. I love the World Series. But that's just asking too much for people to do, to ask that much of one game. They need to go, and this is somebody who didn't love the regular season overtime rules, extra innings rules, but why do we have 2 sets of rules? Like, we are trying to make advancements, and I don't even say we. Baseball is trying to make, Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, has tried to make improvements to the game to reach to a younger crowd, to make it speedier, to speed up the game. And it's been hugely successful. Baseball has come to the forefront again of conversation. The ratings are up. The attendance is up because those games are running faster and because in the overtime extra innings rules in the regular season where they plant a runner on second base, I think that has made the game more attractive. So why are we doing in the World Series something completely different, which loses a half or more of your audience? Just use the regular season extra innings rules all year round, and the game is close to perfect.
You know, I sometimes worry that you and I agree too much on stuff, but anytime I stress about that, we should just talk baseball, because I think it's the one thing we completely disagree on.
And I'm a traditionalist. Like, I like some of the tradition of baseball, but this is one where I think you lose a lot of fans because it takes too damn long.
And I tend to think I'm a traditionalist in every sport too, usually baseball too, but no, man, I can't complain about this. Manfred, man, is the worst thing that's ever happened to baseball, man. And you can't say that it's only baseball. Baseball is the only rules that change in overtime because football changes.
Right.
We saw a tie earlier in the year. That's no more in there.
I would say go to the overtime rules for the postseason so you don't have ties. We can both agree on that. We don't want to see a game called after 18 innings or say it's a tie.
Same thing goes for the NHL, right? In the regular season, 5 minutes of overtime, 3-on-3. It's sick. It's like an arcade game. If it makes it through that, we go to the shootout, and the shootout's the most exciting thing in the world, right? So I don't know that I believe that I'm comfortable with the rules being different. I actually hate this rule always. As long as it doesn't become like an all-the-time thing, I'm good with it.
It is starting to become more frequent, though. It was only, was it, 2019, the last time it happened with the Dodgers? There was another 18-inning game. So it is happening enough. And here's the part I think that it hurts the most. Shohei, who was incredible in that game, they were sending him into the clubhouse in between at-bats to rest because he had to pitch the very next day. They didn't have a day off. I think those players were gassed. I think it takes away from the competition of the game. I think it dilutes them. I think the players are tired and they're worn out because they were playing essentially an extra game the night before. This is one where I'm actually okay with the evolution of the sport coming to a place where it makes sense for everybody. Because what do we talk about all the time? Player injuries, that's your biggest fear. I know it's the best sport. I know it's the World Series. It is the pinnacle of the sport. That is when you want to see your players at their best. In order to do that, let's cap where it can happen. And again, if you start with the runner on second and they go 12, 13 innings and they continually can't have them score, then I'm okay with it. But you got to do something to spur some action so that you don't see the game finish at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I think it's part of the gig, man. I don't think I'm ever going to feel bad for baseball players having to keep playing 18 innings. It's not like the kind of sport like you played or like I played where you feel Shohei Ohtani is a designated hitter on nights that he's not pitching. So the fact that they had to send him to the clubhouse to not get his one at bat every hour and a half, I don't.
Where he just walks anyway.
Right. What they do in like normal time is if it's a pitcher, they'll send him on a plane early. Like if you have a late game,
right.
Or if it's something, they'll send him home and let him get some rest. But come on, man, I don't worry too much about that. If it doesn't become like an all the time thing, and look, if it was our team, we'd have been locked into the screen. It just so happens that it's two teams I don't care about. That's probably part of the reason it didn't matter to me too much. This is the World Series for me as a Yankee fan for two teams that I just don't. I wish they could both lose. You know, I hate the Dodgers from last year and the way the Blue Jays handled themselves. I'm not on board with them either. So yeah, I just think it happens to be it's part of the thing. I didn't hate it at all. If it becomes something like this, I think the most classic NHL games in history are the ones that go 2 and 3 overtimes and you're on the edge of your seat with every base runner or every time a guy.
You know how many of those NHL games I've seen? Zero. Because they end too late. Like they're too late. If you want to start the games at 5 o'clock East Coast so that it finishes at midnight, by all means, feel free to do so. But they're not going to do that because the West Coast crowd. So they're not going to have that solution. So I don't think they'll change the rule because you're like, it's a one-off that happens.
Yeah.
I just think it would make more sense for baseball to kind of keep those because your bullpen gets blown up. All of a sudden, your arms, you're plowing through arms, and it throws everything off for the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, you plow through arms, though, if your starter gives up 6 in the first inning, too. So it's not like it never happens. It's part of the gig is trying to figure out the best way to navigate that, and that's what I find that makes you the best team at the end. So it's stuff like that. I did want to, before we switch gears, just real quick, I know we touch on it a lot, you and me. We don't agree. We talked about this before. Can we just run this play? I thought this was the wildest play I saw.
Here we go.
So can I set the stage real quick?
Yeah.
And I have never once been misconstrued for a Blue Jays fan because, like I said, Yankee fan, don't like them. But, man, did they get royally screwed here. What happens is a pitch, up around the chin, gets called for a third strike. The batter starts taking his gear off, and the runner off of first assumes the last 1,000 times a pitch has landed there, it's been a ball. God, and he gets thrown out right here. And it completely kills a rally in a 0-0 game. This game doesn't go that long if maybe they score a run here. So, come on. If there was ever a
Give me that pitch again. That's a great frame job by the catcher. I think that's top of the letters right there. It's in the upper portion of the strike zone. I don't think it's that. I think the batter screwed the runner because he did a double take. I think he knew it was called a strike, and then he tried to act like I'm going to show everybody what a bad call it was. You should wait there and make sure you don't put your runner in a bad position. That probably is a ball.
Maybe he started moving, though, thinking like there's no feasible way. He moved like that was a ball, and then he just kind of stopped. And I think maybe he thought there's no way that could be called a strike.
That, to me, is poor base running. That is poor base running by everybody involved. You can't ever assume that the officials are going to make the right call, especially an umpire behind the plate.
I feel like a couple years from now, when this show is really big, we could probably ask one of the guys on the chat to just dive into the last 1,000 pitches that stopped there, and you're going to have 998 balls and 2 strikes. That's so crazy.
What also is interesting is there's no box there that they usually have throughout the rig. Yeah, kind of interesting there because I wonder where it would be. Just at the top of the strike zone. I don't think it's as bad an egregious call as you're talking about. That's why I always ask, how do you define the strike zone? If he's standing there at a little bit taller, that's the top of the letters.
That's not top of the letters. That's the bottom of his neck. That's his collar line.
It's not my problem. He has no neck.
That hits the ump in the chin if they let it go.
What a great
run it
frame
one
job.
more time.
What a great frame job by the catcher.
That thing hits the ump in the face.
Look where the glove is when he just frames it perfectly.
So
See, that's
brutal.
what I'm talking about. The art form of the game. That is an art to be able to frame pitches like that to make it look like you're holding it there. I love it, and they're all over it too. Getting the batter, the double play there.
Get out of this, Malik.
Agree to disagree on all of it regarding Major League Baseball. Should be a fun series. I picked the Dodgers to win it going in. Still feel pretty comfortable about that. You rolling with the Dodgers?
They are so loaded, man. They got 3-time Cy Young Award winners coming out of their bullpen. That's one thing I did love. Clayton Kershaw, who's got a history of performing really poorly in the postseason, came in really late, and this might be one of the last times we see him. How cool was it to see him in front of the guys?
It was great. And then to see his wife in the stands watching, which I think were his kids were watching too, the stress that was on them, realizing it might be the last time they would see him in a Dodgers uniform in that situation was really, really cool. All right. Enough baseball. We started off with that, but the NFL is in full swing as well, and we have some incredible action. I want to talk about two teams that we have been pretty critical of, the Dolphins and the Jets, because I thought Mike McDaniel was fired. I thought they should clear house. I thought they should get rid of him. Tua, I thought they should bench Tua Tagovailoa, and yet Mike McDaniel stuck with him, even said, hey, as long as we don't throw 10 interceptions, I don't think we're going to get that. He said, I think we'll be fine. And boy, do they get a win. Even Tua battling through pink eye. I mean, he's out there playing with a shield on his. Maybe that's huge for him because they can't read his eyes. Maybe defenses had a beat on Tua's eyes. We're seeing where he was going with the football. That's a pretty good look at the shield, which I wore in high school. I wore a shield. I thought it looked cool. That was the only reason.
It did look cool.
Exactly. Now he's got the one. He comes out, has one of his best performances of the year, and then you have the Jets get a win over Cincinnati in a shootout type of game. Did either one of these teams, do you feel better about, where you say, you know what? All right, maybe the Dolphins could battle through this adversity. Maybe Mike McDaniel saves his job. Or the Jets. Do you think the Jets have figured something out?
Well, I think they're two completely different situations, right?
They are.
I think Aaron Glenn is new to the Jets locker room and probably still has the belief of his players. And he seems like the kind of guy that can rally the troops and get them on the same page. And I've been hard on him too. I haven't liked the way he's come out of the gate, talking brash, like he's won 1 million games already. So, but I do think, and I think Mike McDaniel is on the other side. It's very hard once you've lost a group of men to kind of get them back. And I think in the beginning, he was super player friendly, and because such a change from Brian Flores, it resonated well. But I think somewhere along the lines in the last year or so, it's become where he's almost a caricature of himself. I don't think there's a way it's very hard to go from mushy to tough with a group. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's very important to not lose that. You've had coaches. I've trained athletes where it's cool. We could be cool, but there's got to be that level of respect, coach, player. Once it crosses over to where they don't respect you like that anymore, I'd say it's impossible to get it back. In the Jets locker room, I think Aaron Glenn still has that. Do I think it was the best thing that the Jets won? I don't. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Same with the Dolphins, too. I don't know if it's in the best interest of either team because you want to have a better draft pick in what is going to be either a rebuild year for the Jets where you're trying to get better next season, or if it's a complete, you blow out everything for the Dolphins, including Tua, you want a better pick at one of these quarterbacks that potentially could be coming out.
Yeah. See, with the Jets, it's twofold for me. And I'm never, ever a guy who wants my team to lose. But I do look at their situation, and I think two things. I think, A, it's vital for these young players to learn how to win, right? A team that's such a losing culture there, they come into every game expecting to lose. So you want your young guys to be able to dig in and learn how to win a football game in the NFL. Problem with the Jets is, they won this game without their best young foundational player on offense, Garrett Wilson, didn't play, and their best young foundational player on defense, Sauce Gardner, didn't play. So these are the guys that I want in the trenches to learn how to dig out these tough games. So that's a bad thing for the Jets. On the other hand, we saw in 2020, the Jets started off 0-13. They wound up winning a meaningless Week 15 and a meaningless Week 16, and Trevor Lawrence turned into Zach Wilson. So that's something you worry about too, as you said, with the draft picks.
Yes, you do. I want to hear that Mike McDaniels after their game to hear what he had to say, because he's always an interesting soundbite when he talks after. Let's see what he said after their win against the Falcons.
Anytime you have an embarrassing outing in the National Football League as a team, you go one of two ways, and I didn't see the negative way being something that was on the table for our locker room. So generally, if you can sustain through tough times and continue to build momentum in your game without results, the results do come, but easier said than done. I think it was an important one of 17.
Yeah, most importantly, they broke the 3-game losing streak that they had. I almost feel like this is a worst-case situation for the Miami Dolphins, because I think what they need to do, and everybody kind of knows it, is clean house. But if they go on a run against a schedule, which coming up, they have the Ravens, Bills, Commanders. Like, those are 3 pretty good football teams. I don't think they're going to win those games. If they do find a way, then all of a sudden you're kind of stuck with a regime that does have question marks. And I do think there are culture issues, and you could be fooled by some wins. Like, the Ravens are a good example. Like, who knows how healthy the Ravens will be when they do face. I think they're getting back Lamar Jackson, so that'll be a good test for the Dolphins. But you almost are in a better case scenario if it's so clear cut, there is no decision other than do the obvious. And that's where I thought they were. Now all of a sudden they come back. I think it was a little bit of fool's gold with the Miami Dolphins. We'll have to see on how it plays out. And for the Jets, I think the most important thing, totally to your point, I think Aaron Glenn desperately needed that to kind of experience. There's nothing worse than being in a losing locker room. And the season starts becoming not fun. It's becoming miserable. Nobody wants to go to work. To get a little taste of that success, I thought was huge for Aaron Glenn. And I was worried about him. Like, if there was a stretch where they are a 1 or a 2 win team, which was probably unlikely, then you are talking about, man, is he one and done? I think he's got the locker room. I think they're still fighting for him. And I do think Justin Fields might have found something in his game.
And I've been super hard on Aaron Glenn. Honestly, I've made it abundantly clear. I hated the way he handled the Aaron Rodgers thing. So ever since there, it's had a bad taste in my mouth. And the way he lost the first couple, he's made a lot of the same mistakes where the Jets have the ball late in the half. He pissed off Garrett Wilson one game because of the way they handled the clock. And then he did it again the next week. Well, this week it was nice to see him make some of those changes. So I think that is very helpful for him. I think that's something maybe he and the team can build off of. By way of Justin Fields, the interesting thing was, if you heard Woody Johnson during the week. Oh, my gosh. Woody Johnson, absolutely brutal on the comment. Yeah. So you wonder if maybe Woody Johnson lit a fire under Justin Fields, because wouldn't that be ironic if Woody Johnson getting out there and just tearing this guy apart was the thing that kind of locked him in and set him on a track to being successful,
Yeah, for sure. Called out his passer rating. I mean, he called him out by, specifically by position. And I thought it was really over the line for an owner to do that. I think we got this. I think Malik's going to be able to find this real quick. We can hear what Woody Johnson said before last week's game.
Well, it looks like he's turning around parts of it. It's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that we got. He has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results across the league. You have to play consistently with, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do for the remainder of the season.
So what gives you hope then? You said you have hope.
I just think defense, special teams are doing better. Defense is pretty good. And if we can just complete a pass, it would look good. We got to complete some passes. You got to convince them that you can do something. Otherwise, it's hard to have a game that you can win.
What do you?
Being an NFL franchise quarterback is the hardest job in the world. It's the hardest position in sports. It's hard enough to deal with criticism from your fan base, from the media, from, social media. All of it's out there, and you're trying to insulate yourself from that. And then your owner goes in there and pours gasoline on the fire. That, I think, was really messed up from Woody Johnson. I think you've got to be a better representative of the organization. But they always say the coach and the quarterback take so much blame, and so they get the credit and they get the blame. And typically one usually takes the brunt of it. And Woody Johnson there pretty much picked a side. And I think it's because Aaron Glenn played there. Sure. I think he likes him better. I think he's seen him as a player and has more hope in his future. Justin Fields was a cheap option. I think it was $20 million a year. It was kind of a let's wait and see. But my favorite part of this whole story is listen to Justin Fields be vulnerable as far as what he was going through, considering the criticism from the owner, the fans, everybody out there, and us. I've been critical of his play. Sure. I love this response after the game.
Right here, but this week I kind of, I found myself in my closet crying on the ground, laying down, not because of the hardships, not because of the troubles. I felt like, I was built to handle that, and I was put in place to handle this situation. But in that moment when I was talking to my best friend, how hard it was, and just not wavering faith-wise, I just had gotten a text from my sister and my stepmom, and it was just an encouraging text on just keep going and keep spreading the faith. And they just sent me a link on social media, and I tell you guys all the time that I'm not on social media, so I didn't see it. So that was just it was just a sign from God for me to keep going, and that I'm in the right place. Yesterday I was just praying over and over and over again, like, yo, like just one win, and but all that to say is that God is real, God is good, and everything that we go through in this life is for a purpose. So yeah.
Man, what a mindset for Justin Fields to have. I don't know how people in life, in sports, in business manage adversity without faith, some kind of faith. And some people, they say, hey, I'm gonna put it on me. I'm gonna fight my way through this. Some people, unfortunately, have turned to the bottle. They might drink or drugs. They might turn to something. But I feel like everybody needs some core inner strength to come from somewhere. For me, it's my faith as well. And I love hearing that. And I think the thing that's important about that is I don't think Justin Fields, yes, he prayed for the win. I think he's been praying for wins all season long. This was just the first one that he got. And I don't know if he survives the adversity if he doesn't have his faith in that position. And clearly it's something that he relied on to get him to that point. I think it is awesome to see players now. They feel like they're more open and honest with their faith. Sometimes in the past, decade or so, you've really seen players probably take a backseat with their faith. Now I feel like there's a revival taking place in sports and in our country in general, where players are more open and honest about their faith and what it means for them. And I think that can be so inspiring to people that are going through similar struggles in their regular lives, that, if I see somebody like that as vulnerable, say they were on their knees in their closet crying, then that can be okay for me to do the same thing. And maybe I can have the same hope that Justin Fields has now.
Well, yeah, it's something that's gotten like infinitely more acceptable over the last couple of years. I'd say probably 3 or 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. And what I've talked about before, and we talked about it, it's in every realm. It's sports, it's life, it's anything. And it's horrible to say, but it's the way it is. If the cool kids do it, it's easy to follow. So I hate, like, the first one I remember really doing it is Christian McCaffrey a couple years ago. When you're the best player in the league, or arguably one of the best players in the league, people see you and they say, oh, okay, cool, so he did it. So, but it's just a testament to how powerful some people's voices are. You don't realize when you're the LeBron James of your sport, or you're Christian McCaffrey in your sport, that you give other people that freedom to kind of speak out and join your cause when you speak up. That's why it's so vital for some of these big guys to take a stand on some of these things. I've never been a big shut up and dribble guy.
Right.
I wish that they'd utilize their platforms to the best of their ability. Sometimes I think they're not always used that way. But in this instance, I love it. I think as a Jets fan, I haven't really heard much of Justin Fields at all. I didn't even know what his voice sounded like. So for me, I was piling on him. Then I hear this, and we're a real forgiving society today, too. You know what I mean? So as hard as I was on the beginning of the year on his play, hearing that makes me almost be like, you know what? Maybe I was too quick to judge. Maybe I was too hard on him out of the gate. He's in a new city. He's a young dude. He's been quit on twice. Let's let him get his bearings underneath him and see. And, I'm more likely now to, all right, he showed me something. Let's see what he can do going forward. Where a week ago, I was already talking about a draft pick for the first round next year.
I love that he probably was aware of Baker Mayfield's story. I think quarterbacks, it's a fraternity. They kind of keep an eye on other people's careers, see how they're going. And Baker has opened up several times about his faith. Here he is talking about his marriage and his faith and what it's meant to his turnaround.
And my identity at the time was a football player. It was a quarterback. And I thought I could carry that. I was like, I've done this. I walked on. I did this. I did that. Fast forward a couple of years into my NFL career, God taught me a lesson. He had to take my career down to the studs and make me realize that I'm more than a football player. There's much more going on in the game of football. And for me to see that, I had to hit rock bottom. And it wasn't just football, it was in our marriage. We weren't doing well at all. At this time, we were trying to have kids. Wasn't going well. And so that was when we dove into PAO. But I remember a couple of years ago we talked about there's that 99% of you that you can put on a facade as a guy, you put on the mask, but behind closed doors, who are you really? What are you hiding? Are you being vulnerable? And until my career got stripped down, I was hiding a lot. And then for me to climb back up, I had to dive into the Word and accept the grace. And that was something that was really, really hard for me. And when I eventually did, I started to see things from a different viewpoint. And that was the biggest change in my life. And that's a couple of years ago. And I think the best part that I've learned throughout the process is it's constant work. It's not like you just get baptized and you're saved. You have to continue to work because the enemy is out to get you. And that's what I thought that, okay, once I achieve something, I can just move on. No, this is something that has to be part of the daily routine, and you have to make your priorities align with that. And so it's been a journey, but it all happened for a reason, and God's timing was perfect, where Tampa feels like home for me now, but that's because of what I built the foundation on.
I think the common thread there, obviously the faith, but also talking about adversity and how it built up their character, and it builds up your faith. It helps you go through the next phase of adversity, because that hasn't all been perfect for Baker Mayfield. Yeah, he's been a great player this season, and he's back in the MVP conversation, but it hasn't come easy. He's had rough moments. He's had bad games, but I think the past adversity and seeing the strength and where it comes from, something bigger than yourself, I think that makes you have this perfect combination of confidence and peace, knowing from within that I'm not playing for anybody else. I'm not playing for the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm not playing for the next paycheck. I'm playing for an audience of one. I think that power really releases you to be able to play with a freedom and unconcerned about the results and what people think. Just go out there and do and use the gifts that God gave you, and to just go out there and play with the freedom that I don't think a lot of players find without faith.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here, right? I think the first thing, the most important thing, and it seems so easy that nobody realizes, is these guys are human beings. We're so used to seeing them out there doing superhuman things, and it's hard. A lot of these these guys have to be broken down before they can be built up, right? And a lot of times the openness and the willingness to accept the Lord is the hardest part, right? I know myself, and I was never Baker Mayfield, and I was never Danny Kanell, but I know for the longest time, I was super selfish, man. Holidays and family and loved ones and girlfriends, everything was on the back burner because everything was about me and my career and my shot at the league and my dream, and it wasn't about ours. And then things become clearer as you get older, and you realize, like, now it's about my wife and it's about our child and it's about that, and that's where I draw my strength to work hard from. It used to be my dream and my me. And now it's about everybody but me. But the ability to give them the most beautiful life is what kind of drives me. And a lot of that comes from my faith, and I'm still working on that, and I've talked about that on here before. I wouldn't say I strayed from doing the right thing, but I did the right thing for, not the Lord. That right. I did the right thing because I was told to do the right thing. And it was important always. That's something that's always been important to me, but it's something now over the last couple of months that I've really tried to, hone in on and just be open and be more willing to listen.
What I love about Baker is I think some people have a perception of how a Christian should compete, be humble, meek.
For sure.
Baker still plays with a chip on his shoulder. He still talks a lot of smack. He is a fierce competitor who wants to go out there and rip your soul out.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I think that's what God wants you to do, is go out there and compete with every ounce of energy that you have, lay it all out in the field, and I think he does that. And he's who he is. God gifted Baker with a very unique mindset, with that kind of hyper-competitive spirit, and I think that's exactly what God wants us to do out there. So I think it's awesome. The other thing, go ahead.
And to that point, what you saying and what Baker said is, he talks about it's a work in progress. If you look back, and I hate to point it out, but if you look back a couple of weeks, Baker basically is cursing at a fan on the other team in the tunnel. So he completely recognizes that he's still a work in progress, and we're all a work in progress. So we're doing better. Give yourself some credit when you do better, but understand this is still Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? So he understands. I'm not quite there yet, but we're just going to keep plugging and just keep doing better.
Yep.
I'll shut up, and if you want to hear it, if we can play it.
I know. I don't know if you do. I love it. He's getting into it. He's mixing it up, which is great. I love the response there. It's so good.
And just like, isn't it funny that like he probably went right to the sideline and saw that little beautiful girl again, and he just kind of mushes, like softens up. Yeah,
no doubt. Unfortunately, the other thing where I think faith comes into perspective is when you realize how fragile life is. And unfortunately, we're reminded of that by a guy who had an incredible career, both in college at Ohio State and then with the Jets, and that's Nick Mangold, who was sort of your consummate NFL offensive lineman, just gruffy. I mean, he's got the picture. He's got his jacket on, but he's still wearing a hat. He's rocking the long beard, the extra hair. And he's been battling this disease for quite some time.
Yeah.
And even just a week ago, probably less than 2 weeks ago, he put out a plea asking for a kidney, right? It was a kidney replacement that he needed. And he was doing interviews. He went on Barstool with the guys from Pardon My Take, and he was explaining to them what happened. And then just a stunner to see somebody who at such a young age, life is done, and he's passed away from that tragically, was just devastating for the NFL community.
Yeah, Mangold was awesome, man. He was he's everything you wanted in like a star player. He was like one of the most humble. He displayed the most humility guys at his position of a generation. And yeah, he'd walk around with his hat backwards and a big smile. And he always thought about everything he said before. He was like a great listen. I've spoken to him a couple times on Twitter. What a good dude, man. The NFL community lost somebody great. I mean, you could hear his old teammates and they speak glowingly about him. It's a shame, man. You're 100% right. That don't wait till your loved ones are gone to let them know how much you love them and how much they mean to you. Rex Ryan over here, he was great about it. And Rex Ryan is a guy who's not always the most wonderful with words, but you could tell the love.
Yeah.
That's just, it's brutal. It's such a great young man. I had the pleasure of coaching him for all 6 years with the Jets, and I remember it was obvious I was getting fired. My last game, Mangold's injured. And he comes to me and says, I'm playing this game. And he wanted to play for me. That's what I remember about this kid. He was awesome and just way too young. I feel so bad for his wife and family. Rough.
Difficult day, obviously, for so many who knew and loved Nick Mangold, and you among those, and all of the Jets family, the Ohio State family is mourning today as well. Nick Mangold gone at just the age of 41.
41, way too soon, man. Just a tragedy to see that unfold. And our thoughts and prayers go to his wife and his kids that he left behind, and leaves behind a pretty impressive legacy. A fan favorite. Everybody loved his teammates, loved him. Just
that's what it is. Story. One of the few guys, man. He was great at the range again. One of the few guys nobody had a bad word to say about.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Everybody loved him. Tragedy there for them. On the other side, the New York Jets, the other side, it used to be the other side of the river. I guess now it is. Now they both practice in New Jersey. But the New York Giants suffered a loss as well on the field, and maybe even more importantly and more rough for them on the football field playing standpoint was Cam Skattebo, who it'd been Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo. Those two were like peas in a pod. They were boys, and they were a big reason the Giants had this infusion of life and energy and just excitement around the offense. And Cam Skattebo, his style of play, running over guys, very physical, out for the season after a really nasty leg injury. I don't know. Are we going to play it? Because I don't even know if I want to watch it. I have to turn away when I see some of these where your ankle's facing the wrong way. Yeah. It was a brutal, brutal loss for the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely deflated the team. If you remember, the game was 7-7 at the time. Saquon got right out of the gates, man. I mean, he looked like old Saquon. And they were taking it to the Giants a little bit. And then Skattebo did something you'd never expect. Did you see the route he ran? What a great route. He ran a little rail route from the backfield, and he adjusted on the fly, and Jackson Dart saw him, hit him beautifully, and it was 7-7. But then when he went hurt, man, you could see
initially, you knew it right away.
And you could see the air just leave the Giants, because at that point, man, and Skattebo it's the worst. I mean, he's had four touchdowns in 4 quarters against Philly at that point.
He's been awesome.
Yeah,
I worry what this does for the Giants on the season.
Totally.
I just wonder if they recover from this. Jackson Dart was his favorite target. He's a great receiver, too. He led at Arizona State.
Yeah.
He was a second leading wide receiver behind Jordan Tyson. He was a big part of their offense. Really versatile back who was one of Jackson Dart's favorite targets to try to connect with, and you put him in the run game. I do wonder now, because I thought maybe Brian Daboll had saved his job with what you had seen, some of the potential from Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo and some of these young players.
Yeah.
I don't know if this ends well for Brian Daboll.
Well, so 2 things. The Giant, in some situations, losing a guy like Neighbors early in the year and losing a guy like Skattebo will almost bide you a little time. I don't know if Daboll might be past that. But the good thing about the Giants and their roster, and Joe Shane's done a decent job with this, is you've got Tyrone Tracy, who had a really nice year, coming back now, and he's back in the fold. And they got Devin Singletary on that bench, who I didn't even realize was there until they started having to force him the ball. But yeah, man, they're not Cam Skattebo. And we're going to see, because Jackson Dart fed off him, the crowd fed off him, and his teammates, you could tell they loved him. I got to ask you a question, man. I thought about it during the week. Do you not? Who do you see in Skattebo? Like what older back? Because I want to get your thought on it real quick. Because there was somebody I was going through. I was actually looking through my sports cards this week, and I pulled a card and I went, "Oh, that's Skattebo." Dude, Mike Allstott? Is Mike Allstott not like very similar to Mike Cam Skattebo?
I knew Mike Allstott. We actually did a rookie photo shoot together for our football cards. He's a great dude. Allstott was more of your traditional fullback,
right? But
but like the mindset and the physical style of running, Allstott was so good.
But Allstott, if you watch his video, there's probably 2 or 3 clips where he shakes guys to the ground.
Oh yeah,
so he was like nimble for a big dude, and he would catch the ball well. I just saw a lot of when I was looking. I was like, he's this days.
That's a good call.
There he is. Boom.
Yeah.
And I watched.
Allstott was great.
There, boom.
He was awesome.
Yeah,
he was a fan favorite too.
Oh,
Very
God,
similar to what
beloved,
Cam was as
beloved.
well.
Yeah.
I want to hear from Jackson Dart after because there was a reaction when he saw the injury. Jackson Dart turned away, looked the other way, and kind of kneeled down and was like just shaking his head. He knew right away, and that was his guy. I want to hear what Jackson Dart said after the game.
Ouais, j'étais dévasté. C'est mon pote, mec.
Oh wow, was that Italian or some other language? We got the translator on there. I don't know if it's Google Translate or what it is, but clearly he was devastated. That's the point to make.
Yeah.
You know what else I think is really hurting Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen? Daniel Jones. Oh. I mean, how can you not? And I was just talking to our guy Paul before the show, who's a big Giants fan.
Huge.
And we were talking about what does this mean for that franchise? And like the Dart and Cam Skattebo getting injured and how this season. How do you not look at Daniel Jones, who is having this resurgent season with a dominant running back and Jonathan Taylor, and look at the Giants and say, you had a very similar duo with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley when they were here. You, of course, made the move to let go of Saquon Barkley. You paid Daniel Jones this big contract, and all of a sudden he goes somewhere else, and he's in the conversation for an MVP, and they look like maybe a Super Bowl contender. I think that doesn't do anything to help Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll.
Absolutely not, in no way, shape, or form, especially when they showed that they could have success with Daniel Jones, and then it just fell apart. I was the first. I mean, I would take up for him in New York and get crushed for it all the time. I thought they really did make him the scapegoat, and it almost seemed like they tried to put him in bad situations last year so that they knew at the end of the year, we're gonna get this guy out of town and we're gonna save ourselves, almost like they coerced together. It's gonna be up on the Tishes and the Maras now to decide because it's been Schoen and Daboll's decision. It's horrible, man. And Daniel Jones is absolutely rolling, man. 3 more touchdowns this week. He's 5th in passing yards. Whoever would have thought Daniel Jones would be 5th in passing yards? And they do such a good job, such a well-balanced attack over there. And
which his best season was with Saquon when Saquon was healthy, and they go and they get the win in Minnesota, and then they had the loss after that. But I think that's a bad look for the Giants to see a player that you had in your building and you couldn't support him. Because I was like you. It was hard to defend Daniel Jones because he'd show you these flashes and then he'd turn the ball over 3 or 4 times, and then it's just the consistency. But I think it was a lot of the roster around him. Clearly, Daniel Jones could win if you put him in a position to succeed like the Colts have given him.
Yeah, it was the roster around him. You take away his big back. He never had a number 1 receiver. No. His receiver room when he was there, and we've talked about it, it was Jalen Hyatt. It was Wan'Dale Robinson. It was Neighbors as a rookie who was incredible, but by then they kind of given up on Daniel Jones at that point. Yeah, it was terrible. His offensive line has always been really bad, and I'm telling you, the game plan changed completely from what they did and had success with Saquon. It was basically run the heck out of the football, ask Daniel Jones to make a couple of plays with his legs and 2 or 3 big throws a game. And then at the end, I'm telling you, they left him out to dry. And I'm so glad to see him doing that way because he seems like a real good dude. He's very humble. He answers everything like he's supposed to. They always try to get him to fry the Giants now, like in the press. And he always takes the bait.
He's classy. He's not going to do it. So I love seeing it for him too. Nothing against the Giants. I just love seeing a resurgent story and a comeback story like Daniel Jones is having. All right, I did want to hit on the biggest story of the week since we've been on. Was what happened with the NBA. And it was nothing that happened on the court. We'll have some time to get some of that at another time. But the biggest story was the NBA gambling scandal that took place. And this is one of those where it was such a bombshell because I'm sitting there and I was actually doing rehab on my shoulder and I was scrolling through my phone as I'm getting some stim. And all of a sudden I see Terry Rozier arrested in relation to an FBI, investigation. And it's like, ooh, man, a player's fixing games potentially. And then you see Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, is coming out with a press conference. I'm like, man, that feels huge. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, Chauncey Billups, it comes out that he's getting arrested as well, a current head coach in the NBA. And so you're thinking then Damon Jones comes out, a former player. This is every sports commissioner's worst nightmare.
Totally.
And I think this is a big reason why every major sports league really did push back on the gambling until they said, you know what? The money is just too good to pass up. Every source of revenue we can grab onto, we're going to do it. And it's a huge opportunity for them to make a ton of money. And this is always what they were worried about. Anybody that was anti-gambling that said, hey, we do not want to legalize gambling. This was the exact scenario that everyone warned about, but no one listened to.
Yeah, I mean, everything top to bottom about this story is incredible, and it's going to I think the next 3 weeks or a month are going to be even more incredible, because if you think it was just a 3-person operation, you're out of your mind. We saw people connected to the NBA at the deepest levels. You have guys who coached and played. You have NBA Hall of Famer in Chauncey Billups, right? Terry Rozier's still in the locker room, and now we're hearing La Cosa Nostra, which is the Italian mob, and that's out of control. Here's the problem, though. When you subject these players, every 5 minutes there's a commercial about DraftKings and FanDuel. How do you expect these guys to not get involved in it? You know, it's completely impossible to get them so close to it and think that you're going to keep them out. Now, the scary part about this is, I think it's going to get significantly deeper. We're going to see more. They're going to start digging into different leagues. And I think a lot of this tailors over to what we've been talking about. You see stuff like I'm a big proponent of it, and I talk to you about it every week. I think the officiating is the worst I've ever seen it. Mm-hmm. Now you start to think, does one bleed into the other? Is it a coincidence that the officiating is the worst it's ever been at a time where the gambling is the biggest it's ever been? And it's super scary, because once you start to compromise the integrity of the sport, you no longer have a sport. You have WWE. Yeah. And that's something we can't afford to have, because then people completely lose trust in your league. Adam Silver, I think, far and away the worst commissioner in sports. It doesn't shock me at all that he is the first one to go down with it, and now they're scrambling left and right to try to save themselves.
Yeah, I mean, this was his first interview, at a game in a tunnel where Cassidy Hubbard, who I used to work with at ESPN, tracked him down. Here's what Adam Silver had to say.
Foram anunciadas acusações federais envolvendo o atual
We still got our translator on. I think it's French. I think we got the French going there. But he goes on and he tries to do some backpedaling there. We'll have to check our settings there. Good call on the Google. But ultimately, Adam Silver does not give you a ton.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm not the pious guy who here and says, I told you, because I'm somebody who likes talking about this point spread. Mm-hmm. I think, I even gamble a little bit. I think it's everything in moderation, whether it's drinking, whether it's, a gambling, something like this, because as our country has become more liberal in some of the things like marijuana, like gambling, things that never had been. Those were always very taboo. As we've gotten there, I'm okay with that and having it put on personal responsibility, having those personal freedoms. But this is the risk you run, the same way that you do with alcohol. I mean, how many stories in the NFL have we seen where an NBA and baseball and everything, where you see tragic car accidents, you see players getting DUIs, you see players doing really stupid things. I think this is a part of the territory that comes with it. The difference is those don't impact the integrity of the game. And that's what concerns me the most, because that's when fans possibly check out and say, all right, I've seen enough. And worse than, having these scandals is having fans say, all right, well, I'm not watching anymore because I think it's rigged.
And now a lot of fans are starting to say things like, I've lost a ton of money on Terry Rozier's games in the last couple of years. I'm going to take him to court. And how do you fight that? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's an incredible thing. But when you're playing such high-stakes games, and I don't even mean high stakes like the NBA, which is the highest of stakes, I mean the amounts that are being gambled on these games versus the inordinate amount that the players make, it's not even comparable. So you think a guy like Jonte Porter, right? Think about a guy like him. He's Michael Porter Jr.'s brother. He was banned from the league last year. Guy's probably making $400K. So to a normal guy, that's a ton of money. But to Jonte Porter, it's $400,000 or it's $3 million if he just starts tanking things during the year. And a lot of these guys, and this is something we talked about, the college sports rule, that they look like they've walked back a bit. That's what you told me about. I hope you can explain it right after this. But for the people who aren't going to make, a guy like me who spent 5 minutes there, it's not life-changing money. For a Jonte Porter, $400,000 isn't life-changing money, but you can go ahead and get in bed with a guy like this who says, I'll give you $25,000 to give me the under tonight, and we're just going to put a ton of action on you. They're saying that they have records of $200,000 winnings being brought to Terry Rozier's house. Now, Terry Rozier was making a ton.
Well, see, that's what, and Chauncey Billups made $100 million in his career as a player. So where is the money? That to me is one of the most egregious violations of just how dumb could you be to go for a couple extra million, even if it was $1 million, which I think is probably on the high end.
Right.
Where is your just general IQ to say, you know what, maybe this isn't worth it?
Well,
you're a head coach in the NBA.
That brings us back to exactly what you were talking about before, and that's why I'm a big believer in that. It's not a dumb or smart thing. It really is a sickness. These guys he got nothing to gain making a couple of $100K for Terry Rozier. He probably spends that on a vacation, twice or 3 times a year with his family. It really is. It's a problem these guys have, and it's the rush and it's the chase, and that's the biggest problem with it. It's not a fact that they need the money.
I don't think these scandals are going away. I think you're going to see more players get in trouble. We've already seen it at the college game. We've seen some players, get in trouble for gambling. The NCAA, ironically, the day before this scandal broke, the NCAA came out with a rule which said they were going to allow college athletes to bet on professional sports, not college sports. And I think the line of thinking was the NCAA didn't want to have to deal with a player getting in trouble for betting on an NFL or NBA game. Like if it found out, because we've seen some of those too, and they just don't want to deal with it. So they're like, all right, we'll just take that off the table. Now, after pushback from conference commissioners, Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, they said, we think this is a bad idea. The NCAA has tabled that. They've delayed that decision, which I think is smart, but they're looking at it the same as the personal responsibility. Well, it's legal in most states that these players play in. They're not, as long as they're not gambling in their own sport, we're okay with it. It's a professional level, but I don't know how you police all this, and it's not going to go away anytime soon.
And a guy like Greg Sankey, of all the
he's the most powerful commissioner in sports.
He had to get out in front of it because theoretically the universities in the SEC are NFL factories.
Right.
So a lot of these freshmen and juniors are watching their junior and senior teammates go to the league, and it doesn't seem like it'd be a criminal thing. It almost seems like a victimless crime. But tell me Danny Kanell graduates, and I'm a sophomore, and I call Dan and say, Dan, how's your shoulder feeling? Oh, you're a little banged up today?
Right.
All right, cool.
Or you don't even have to call and ask. You're behind the scenes.
That's it.
You're in the training room. You walk in there. Hey, what's wrong with you? Hey, they'll give you information. Hey, Kanell or whoever mispracticed today.
That's what I'm saying.
That's valuable information.
Like these LSU kids, hypothetically, or the Ohio State kids, or the Penn State kids,
Anybody.
any one of these universities, Florida State kids, who are watching their teammates go to the league every year, and they're homies more than they are like, they don't look up to each other anymore. They're buddies. They're getting on the phone. They're just chopping it up. And just in conversation, my hamstring's a little toasted. Man, I extended a little bit last game, blah, blah. It doesn't seem like insider trading, but at the end of the day, if someone looks into it, it could be a thing. You know what I mean? And I think the NCAA did a good thing by stepping back on that. Let's reassess it maybe later down the road. I don't think there's any way to really police it properly. It's inevitable that something bad's going to happen from it, but we'll see what happens. A lot of these people have been given a ton of power now. So
a lot of people had takes on this. I did not see a take as dumb as what I saw from Stephen A. Smith.
Friend of ET, actually.
He's a friend of mine. His office used to be next to me. I used to go on First Take. We'd have debates, and I like Stephen A. I just think this was one of the dumbest takes that I've ever seen because he was on First Take the day this all unfolded, and they actually were a little bit slow. They were letting Cash Patel and the investigation play out. And there's one, I sent it in our chat, the one that he was on First Take.
Yeah.
Because essentially he said Donald Trump, he kind of put it on him. And he said, I've been trying to tell everybody that this was on Donald Trump, and he's coming because Donald Trump doesn't like the NBA. Here it is. That's the top one right there. If we have the right language. There we go.
In terms of politics, how many times, for one incident after another, have I said Trump is coming? He's coming. I'm going to say it on national television again. Bad Bunny is performing at the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you hearing ICE is going to be there, looking to engage in mass deportations. The Super Bowl, disrupting things. Big night for the NBA. Wembanyama put on a show. That has now been smeared because we're talking about this story, okay? Remember, Trump has a long, long history connected to the world of sports because he had those casinos. Where do you think folks were coming half the time? I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about the culture. When people want to go to a casino, when people want to gamble, when people want to party, or whatever the case may be. This was his kind of connection to that. Why am I glad you're here, Monica? Because don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list.
All right, we got to cut out this because I cannot hear any more of this stupidity. Because here's the thing, and a lot of people pointed this out. Did we or did we not hear Kash Patel say this was a multi-year investigation? Donald Trump hasn't been in office for 1 full year. That is the dumbest connection to take, but it's very easy, and I think this is where Stephen A. is great. It's a pretty impressive sell. Like, he's trying to weave in and out, because I don't think Donald Trump loves the NBA. I don't think he loves the WNBA. But if you think this was Trump giving Kash Patel the order, go take down the NBA and make this announcement the day that Wemby has a big night, absolutely not. This is just trying to make a connection that simply isn't there. And I thought that these are the moments when I think Stephen A. loses credibility as a smart analyst, when he tries to make these types of connections and tries to really lean into a race or politics to really create a reaction from different people.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. There is 2 completely different Stephen A's. There's Disney, ESPN Stephen A., who takes part in the morning, who picks on Trump, who's just low-hanging fruit after low-hanging fruit. And then there's podcast Stephen A., where you kind of get a better sense for what he really believes, because the reins are pulled a little loose. He's allowed to given a little more freedom to say what he wants. There's VT Stephen A., where he comes on and just lets everything roll. And that's the one we see around here, which is pretty interesting. I think he does a much better job on his own platform of being able to give unbiased opinions. He does a wonderful job with that there. But as soon as you see him start to attack stuff like this on Disney and First Take, you know exactly where he's going with it. He goes to the low-hanging fruits. He goes to the place that's going to get the most clicks. He's going to go to the place that's going to get a lot of shows like us to talk about him. And that's where his bread is buttered. So.
I want to hear this, because it looks like Laura Ingraham asked Kash Patel about Stephen A.'s comments. I'm curious to hear what he says.
Yeah, for sure.
That this was revenge from the president for all the kind of left-wing activism of the NBA. Your response to that, 15 seconds.
I'm the FBI director. I decide which arrests to conduct and which not to conduct. That may be the single dumbest thing I've ever heard out of anyone in modern history, and I live most of my time in Washington, D.C. It's right up there with Adam Schiff. We arrest people for crimes.
The other thing I would counter with Stephen A., isn't this a good thing for the NBA? Like, don't you want to police the sport so that there is integrity, so that you do have a competitive balance, so that you do have fairness? Because the longer this would have gone on in the background, that is not good. Like, if it comes out later, or let's say it comes out, after Trump leaves office, or however long it takes, wouldn't that be worse? Isn't this better that the NBA is policed so that you at least find this out and you weed out some of the problems?
Yeah, it would seem so. And I think it'll be interesting when we see down the road, because if you think it's going to stop at the NBA and not start to permeate these other leagues, you're crazy. At the same time, and this is something that actually a lot of the comments, I think we put this video up and got the most engagement from any of the people watching of anything. I think we got some hundreds and hundreds of comments, and it's all... So Kash Patel, a bit hypocritical too in here. And I actually I was a Kash guy when he first came on. That's not what this show is about. But he said something like, I'm the FBI director. I decide who we arrest and who we prosecute. And our whole comment section is like, hey guys, how about the Epstein guys? And we don't worry about NBA right now. So Kash Patel is a little hypocritical. Stephen A is a little hypocritical. I think it all plays well for media. So.
And he just took this job too. This investigation was going on before Kash Patel. So we can't stand up there and take all the credit either.
Sure.
We will see.
Yeah.
All right. Do the fellas have some fun stuff for us to finish out the show?
They usually do.
I know. I was wondering about this. Yeah, here we go.
Is it in English, guys?
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope we have the right translation. What do we got? Oh boy. Yeah, I know where this one's going. Here's Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Watch that. That's just one dribble right there.
Oh, yeah, one dribble. And how many steps? Because that ball is now secure.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Come on.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is that Reggie?
Yeah. We could have played till we're 50. But
Thank you. And at least those guys are calling it out on the broadcast, but at some point, and those travels make the rounds a lot of times.
Yeah, there's a clip at the end of the game where Giannis is like saying, "This is my town, this is my city," and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it better be your city because that's the only city you're getting away with that.
Yeah.
You know, 6
Maybe
steps.
Giannis is carrying it and traveling because he didn't do these drills. I want to see this little guy.
What do we got?
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
He's got better handle than me at 2.
He definitely
Not
does.
Good.
Holy! See, now that's what Giannis needed to be doing. Then he wouldn't be traveling.
Come on, come back.
Dude, this is impressive. I do wonder.
Come on now, keep your balance and get some speed up to it. There you go.
Now, do you think that's a dad or a trainer?
Come on, you got to be able to.
I think he probably doubles as both.
Yes, I think he could. Now, is this the next Marv Marinovich, who had Todd Marinovich as the robo quarterback, just from the day he was out of the womb, was trying to train him?
Yeah, there's funny videos of Jalen Brunson's dad crushing him, and Brunson will talk about it, like, man, he was terrible growing up, but I love him now for
That is impressive. Oh, now we got some college football. What do we got here?
Oh yeah, this is a crazy one.
Could be a double pass here. It is. Jolie is wide open.
Oh, and there it goes. There it goes.
You got to go. The old sniper from the upper deck got him. Oh, my goodness.
I'll tell you one thing, man. As a guy who's taken a couple across the middle and gotten smoked a bunch of times, it hurts significantly less when you make the play. If you get tackled on the 3, that hamstring feels like it's falling off your body.
Yeah.
If you score the touchdown, it's going to suck for a couple of weeks, but at least you got the glory of the touchdown, right?
Yes, it is. All right, what do we got here?
Got another one?
Is this your squad, little Chiefs?
All right, take this off, man. We've seen this already. I know how this play goes.
Man.
It's been 3 wins since this. Oh, we're talking about offensive linemen? Oh, I like that.
Yeah, there we go.
I like that.
Big man rumbling. There's nothing better because those guys, they dream about this.
Remember Dan Connolly?
Oh, yeah.
From the Patriots? Oh,
yeah.
boy. Look at that move.
Yeah. That shows you kind of what's scary about this is how athletic some of these guys are.
Yeah.
I think people think of offensive linemen. Oh, my goodness, the
Matt
stiff
Ryan just
arm.
got killed. Yeah. Well, that's because in regular life, if you see a guy 6'5", 360, he's usually a sloppy mess, right?
Who can't
But these
move at all.
guys are coordinated.
Quick like cats.
Yeah.
Those cat-like reflexes.
Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck
Going
catching
the
him.
other way. These dudes, they're so athletic. I mean, they've always been that way, but they continue to get even more and more athletic.
Yeah,
it is
scary dudes.
That is awesome. Oh, another one. Just picking now. Some of these.
Oh, is that Haloti?
I think so. That's good. Although the one thing I will say is they're definitely going to get oxygen after those. Definitely going to get some oxygen in the tank.
And
that is the hilarious part is after those guys I've seen some of those guys make those runs, dying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then you see if you watch how many offensive players are making business decisions, like just getting out of there, like a little touch. Maybe I got him or no.
I do give
Hopefully
credit to Matt Ryan for at least trying to make that play. But, man, he got ragdolled pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fun way. I like the way we finished that one out. All right.
Good stuff, guys.
That's a wrap for us. Make sure you go give us a follow on YouTube, subscribe, like the channel at Danny Kanell.
At Chris Manno. Check us out. VT merch. The VT Sports merch will be coming soon, guys. And check us out on Connect.
See y'all next Wednesday.